My mom was just 17 when she crossed paths with my dad, who was 4 years her senior. Despite their age gap, they quickly fell head over heels for each other. But their whirlwind romance took an unexpected twist when my mom found out she was expecting. Being under 18 at the time, they decided to wait until her milestone birthday to make things official. Exactly 3 months later, on her 18th birthday, they said their vows. It was a mix of joy and bittersweet emotions, as she was already 3 months pregnant when they tied the knot. Determined to find their own way, they rented a small room, refusing to rely on their families. It was in this modest room that I was born, and my mother was not yet 19. They were practically kids themselves who had just graduated from high school, but they did everything they could to make it work. For them, my mother did not go beyond general education, while my father, a graduate of the Polytechnic Institute, already worked as a foreman at a factory. In those early years, my father worked tirelessly to support us, while my mother, on maternity leave, was going through all the vicissitudes of motherhood. But he didn't just limit himself to providing. He rolled up his sleeves and got involved in the work. I have fond memories of how he came to me on sleepless nights, calming my sobs so that my mother could rest. He even took on responsibilities like washing and ironing diapers or going to the pharmacy at night when I was unwell. He epitomized what it means to be a true husband and father. Later, my mother realized her lifelong dream of becoming a doctor. She went to medical school, but it was in another city, which meant I had to stay with my grandmother, her mother. Her visits became rare but precious. Every time she came back, it was like Christmas morning. We walked, went to the center, and enjoyed these fleeting moments together. When she was home, my bedtime rules went out the window. I could stay up late watching TV. But her visits always felt too short, and soon she'd be off again, leaving me counting down the days until her next return. My dad did his best to fill in the gaps. On weekends, he'd take me skiing or skating, and he even held my hand on my first day of school. I'll never forget the nights we walked to the train station to greet Mom. I'd fall asleep on his shoulders, content and secure. By the time I was in 2nd grade, Mom had finished medical school and returned to do her internship at the city hospital. Meanwhile, Dad's hard work had earned us a 2-bedroom apartment from his employer, giving us a real home to share as a family. My mom, always striking with her slim figure, blonde hair, and piercing blue eyes, seemed to grow more radiant with time. Even in her 40s, people often mistook her for my girlfriend when we walked down the street, a testament to her timeless beauty. After school, I chased my own dream of becoming a pilot. By 23, I'd made it, flying domestic routes before landing a co-pilot gig on EMB charters across Africa, from Paris to Washington. My career took off, literally. A year later, I was promoted to captain after the senior pilot left unexpectedly. On trips back home, my parents would meet me at the airport, Dad's warm smile and Mom's elegance always making me feel like a celebrity. When my stint abroad ended, I came back bearing gifts: French cosmetics for Mom and a set of collectible tin soldiers for Dad, who loved recreating historical battle scenes. As the plane taxied to the terminal, I took my time, letting the crowd rush ahead. With my bag in hand, I thanked the flight attendant and made my way to the arrivals hall. The chaos of the airport didn't bother me, even when I couldn't spot my parents at first. I headed for the cab stand only to hear Mom's unmistakable voice. Turning, I saw her step out of a sleek luxury car, waving excitedly. She looked stunning as ever, dressed to the nines in a cream coat, silk scarf, and heels. I couldn't help but wonder, did they hit the lottery? Where's Dad? Is he feeling okay? I asked as I approached. Mom hesitated, her smile faltering for a second. Get in, Tyler. There's so much to tell you. Once inside, the young man driving turned to her and asked, Where are we going, madam? To Eric's house, she answered, turning to me with a nervous but dazzling smile. Tyler, I need you to know something. 6 months ago, I left Benjamin. I've moved on. I've reunited with my first and only love, Ethan. Her words felt like a thunderclap. My dad, Benjamin, wasn't her first love? My mind raced as she explained how she'd been forced to leave Ethan years ago when she was pregnant with me. Benjamin had stepped in to give me a father, but after all these years, Her heart had led her back to Ethan. "Where's Dad now?" I managed to ask in a trembling voice. She shrugged, her tone dismissive. "Probably at the old apartment, lost in his dioramas." We pulled up to a sprawling 3-story house surrounded by manicured lawns. A distinguished man, Ethan, stood at the door waiting. Mom rushed to him, planting a kiss that left no doubt about their feelings. Turning to me, she introduced him as my biological father. Ethan greeted me warmly, though his handshake was clammy. "This is your home now," he said with a smile. I nodded, still reeling. I handed Mom the cosmetics, knowing full well she didn't need them anymore. Not with a life like this, but it felt polite. After exchanging pleasantries, I excused myself, needing a moment to process. So much had changed, yet life seemed determined to keep moving forward. "Let's grab some breakfast first, then you can head out," Mom said, pulling me into a warm hug. "Wash up and take a breather. You've had a long trip. Ethan, take my car. Tyler, the driver will take you where you need to go, and we'll wait as long as it takes." "It's fine, really?" I said, brushing him off politely. "I'll just grab a cab." I kissed my mom on the cheek and walked out through the gate. As I got into the cab, everything hit me like a ton of bricks. Mom and Dad had been married for 27 years. No drama, no big fights, at least not that I ever knew of. I thought they were happy. Then Ethan came along and Mom just left. Not only that, but now I was expected to play along with this new happy family narrative, as though my dad never mattered. I couldn't stop thinking about Dad. He wasn't even my biological father, and yet he'd raised me, loved me, given me everything, and this was the thanks he got? Mom's decisions had changed everything. A father isn't the one who gives life, but the one who gives love, I remembered hearing once. But sitting there in that cab, I wasn't sure anymore. How had Dad felt when Mom told him I wasn't his? When she left him for someone else? The cab pulled up to Dad's old apartment. Letting myself in with my key, I was greeted by the familiar scent of my childhood. Everything was just as I remembered it, like time had frozen. I searched the rooms, but Dad wasn't there. Maybe he was at work or out running errands. As I dropped my bag on the couch, the door creaked open. My neighbor stood in the doorway, a sympathetic smile on her face. "Tyler, welcome home," she said warmly. Then her expression turned somber. "Your dad had a heart attack a couple of days ago. He's in the hospital now, it's just 2 blocks from here. I can show you the way." I quickly grabbed some fruit and juice from the kitchen before rushing out with her. Dad was in the general ward with 7 other patients. When I saw him, I was relieved. He looked tired, but he was fine. "Hey, Dad," I said cheerfully, pulling up a chair. "Instead of hanging out with your son, you're busy lounging around hospitals?" Dad turned, clearly surprised. "Tyler, you're back. Sorry I wasn't there to meet you." "Don't apologize," I reassured him. "I'm here now, and I'll be sticking around for a while. I've got a new job with a domestic airline. I even brought you a little something. But first, when are they letting you out of here?" Dad smirked, but there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. "No idea. Could be a week, could be 2. They haven't told me yet." Something felt off. He wasn't calling me son, like he always used to. It was subtle, but it stung. "Don't worry, Dad," I said, trying to lighten the mood. "Once you're better, we'll finally buy that country cottage you've always wanted." He avoided my eyes, his silence louder than words. I filled the awkward gaps with small talk, but it was clear his mind was elsewhere. After saying goodbye, I sought out his doctor. The diagnosis? Stress mostly. With proper care, he'll be fine, the doctor assured me. When I got out of the hospital, an idea struck me. My classmate worked at the Bureau of Forensic Medical Examination. If anyone could help me sort out this mess, it was him. When I met Igor, I didn't mince words. "I need a paternity test," I told him, my voice firm. Igor raised an eyebrow. "You know that's a slippery slope, right? Falsifying records is illegal. It's just for Dad. No one else will see it," I pleaded. After a long pause, he sighed. "Fine. Bring me a hair sample from your dad and come to the lab for your own. I'll have the results tomorrow." The next evening, I returned to the office. There was only one stamped document on his desk. "It's all there," Igor said, sliding it toward me. I stared at the paper, my heart pounding. "What does it say?" Igor grinned. "It says Benjamin is your biological father, 99% probability." I sank into a chair, overwhelmed. "So all this time," he grinned. "Now go and show him." Half an hour later, I was back at the hospital, report in hand. "Hey, Dad," I greeted him, adjusting his blanket. "Feeling any better?" "A bit," he said softly, avoiding my gaze. I handed him the document. "Can you read this for me?" He studied it for what felt like an eternity, his hands trembling. When he finally looked up, tears streamed down his face. "Well," I said with a smile, "are we still buying that cottage?" Dad pulled me into a hug, his tears soaking my shirt. In that moment, nothing else mattered. I married a flight attendant from my crew and we named our son Benjamin, after my dad. Life moved on, though Mom was no longer part of it. I limited contact and eventually she stopped trying. Ethan passed away and she stayed in their cottage, alone with her regrets. Years later, at my wife's urging, we visited her. Mom greeted us warmly, her composure impeccable, until she saw Benjamin. She froze, her face pale. He was the spitting image of Dad at 18, and the realization hit her like a tidal wave. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "What have I done?" But it was too late. The choices she'd made were irreversible, etched into the lives she'd shattered. And as we left that day, I knew I'd finally closed the chapter on her part in my story.